A man who bought a plug-in hybrid was shocked to find out battery repairs would cost him more than...
Nobody expected it, not from Chery, not from China, and certainly not in a diesel plug-in hybrid. Yet here we are.
Plug-in hybrid. It's a PHEV, that's right. So Chery Malaysia is now also moving into plug-in hybrids.
Chery's newest dual-cab ute is no longer just a concept. It's a serious threat to Australia's best-selling trucks. Forget the stereotypes. This machine is different, the kind of different that could make Ford, Toyota, and BYD rethink their strategies. So, what makes this vehicle so shocking? Why is everyone from engineers to executives scrambling to keep up? This is the story behind the ute that might just change the game. The unexpected challenger. Chery wasn't always part of the conversation when Australians talked about serious utes. It started with small, inexpensive cars like the Omoda 5. People dismissed them as budget options, nothing more, but something changed. While the Omoda 5 had its issues, Chery followed it with the Tiggo 4 Pro, a car that began to build real momentum in the market. And now, their ambitions have grown far beyond crossovers. Enter the dual-cab ute. Lucas Harris, Chery's Australian COO, says the company isn't just dipping its toes into the water. They're diving into the deep end. And not just with any ute, but one built to rattle giants. Think Ford Ranger, think Toyota Hilux, think BYD Shark 6. Those are the names that dominate the landscape. And Chery wants a slice of that exact pie. But here's the twist. Chery's angle is not brute force or high horsepower. It's technology, a diesel plug-in hybrid. Something almost no one saw coming. That choice alone puts Chery in a different lane. It's not chasing trends, it's trying to start one. So how did a company previously dismissed as just another Chinese brand manage to turn into a serious player in one of the most competitive vehicle categories in Australia? Start with ambition. Harris and his team made a bold pitch to the global chairman. They asked for something few subsidiaries dare to request: full input into the design of a globally launched vehicle. Not just cosmetic tweaks, not just marketing, full collaboration with the engineers. Within a week, 6 engineers were preparing to fly into Australia with visa applications in hand. Why? Because Chery's leadership sees this as their breakout moment, and they know Australia is the perfect testing ground. Why else would their global team be so quick to respond? They also know what they're up against. Harris didn't sugarcoat it. He openly admitted that today's utes, the Hilux, the Ranger, even the newer contenders, are outstanding. So why try to enter a field already packed with excellence? Because disruption doesn't happen by accident. According to Harris, it's this exact pressure that fuels their motivation. It gives us fire, he said, and it shows. The company isn't just trying to meet expectations, it's trying to reshape them. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Chery has never sold a body-on-frame vehicle in Australia. Everything so far has been monocoque. That's a serious leap, but it also suggests something bold. This ute isn't an afterthought. It's not a rebadge. It's being engineered from the ground up to take on the toughest in the business. What happens when you mix fresh ambition with unconventional powertrains? Are we about to witness a major shakeup in the ute hierarchy? Keep watching, because what's coming next might just be the beginning of that shift. Diesel, electrified and unexpectedly brilliant. The words diesel and plug-in hybrid are rarely found in the same sentence. You've heard of petrol hybrids. You've seen electric utes gaining ground. But diesel plug-in, that's a whole new story. And it's the exact lane Chery wants to own, not follow, own. Why start here? Why take a path that even giants like Toyota and Ford have avoided? Because the advantages are hiding in plain sight. Diesel engines are known for low-end torque and long-range cruising. Plug-in hybrids, they offer silent, emission-free driving for short trips. Together, they promise something compelling: efficiency without compromise. Chery knows this market isn't forgiving. Australians want their utes to haul, tow, and go the distance. No one wants to get stuck in the outback with a flat battery and nowhere to plug in. That's where diesel becomes the ace in the deck. It's the fuel of choice for long-haul, load-carrying tasks, especially in remote areas. Combine that with a plug-in system, and you're offering a ute that runs economically around town, then crushes the highway when needed. So how far could it go? We've already seen petrol plug-in hybrids like the BYD Shark 6 and the BYD Cannon Alpha stretch their ranges close to 800 or even 880 kilometers. Now imagine what happens when you replace the petrol engine with a diesel. Suddenly, you're flirting with 1,000 kilometers of total range. That's not speculation, that's potential. Why hasn't anyone else done this? Why are Chery the first to roll the dice on such a system? Because it's not easy. The engineering challenge is steep. You need to manage the torque curves of two very different systems. Diesel and electric motors don't behave the same. Pairing them into one seamless experience takes serious R&D. You also need battery placement that won't mess with payload. And speaking of payload, Chery says they're targeting the 1-ton mark. That's not a soft target. That's the standard. Miss it and you're out of the game. Yet, Chery believes it can hit it. Why? Because they're not building from scratch in a vacuum. Their engineers have been studying this segment, analyzing what works and what doesn't. And here's the twist. Harris hinted this ute won't just be a single configuration. Multiple variants are in development. There's likely to be a traditional diesel engine for conservative buyers. But that diesel plug-in hybrid, that's the showstopper. It's a gamble, yes, but it's the kind of gamble that makes people pay attention. The kind that turns a niche brand into a headline. Still, the question remains, will Australians trust it? Can a Chinese brand deliver the toughness, the reliability, and the confidence that tradies, off-roaders, and weekend warriors demand? That answer depends on more than specs. It depends on what Chery does next. Are they ready to back up the tech with real-world testing? Are they willing to prove it under Australian conditions? Or is this another case of a flashy reveal with no substance behind it? If what we've seen so far is any indication, Chery doesn't just want to compete, they want to leapfrog. And the next big clue is in how they plan to build it. Because where a car is made, and how is just as important as what's under the hood. Built for the bush or for the showroom. In the ute market, pedigree matters. You cannot just badge a model, ship it over, and expect Australians to welcome it. This is not a country that tolerates pretenders. If your vehicle cannot handle corrugated gravel, deep river crossings, blazing summers, and steep, twisting climbs without breaking a sweat, you will not last. Chery seems to understand that. They are not pretending this ute will succeed on price alone. They are preparing to fight on engineering, performance, and real-world durability. At the core of this strategy is local input. Most brands outsource testing or adapt global designs for regional markets as an afterthought. Chery has taken a different route. According to Lucas Harris, the company insisted on having Australian engineers work directly with the core design team in China. That is not just symbolic. It means Australian roads, Australian conditions, and Australian expectations are baked into the blueprint, not patched on later. When Harris told the Chery chairman about the need for more input from the Australian team, the response was immediate. Within a week, visa support requests were submitted for 6 engineers to travel down under. That level of responsiveness is rare, especially from a company that operates in a top-down structure. It suggests that this project is not just another entry in the product line, it is a strategic move aimed at credibility in a brutal market. But what exactly are they developing? Chery's history in Australia is still new, and so far, it has mostly involved crossovers and budget-oriented vehicles. This new ute is their first serious push into the heavy-duty world of dual cabs. Unlike their current models, which ride on monocoque platforms, this new chassis is expected to be body-on-frame, essential for any vehicle that wants to match the Ford Ranger or Toyota Hilux in payload, off-road strength, and towing capacity. Let's not forget the payload target either. Harris confirmed they are aiming for 1 ton. That might sound like a standard figure, but hitting it is no small task. especially with a complex plug-in hybrid system on board. Batteries are heavy and space is limited. Achieving a payload of 1,000 kilograms without compromising on safety, stability, or off-road geometry will require innovation at every level. This is where Chery's access to newer design tools, modular platforms, and advanced simulation tech could give them an edge over more traditional players. Then comes the manufacturing question. Will it be built in China, or could there be local assembly options? So far, the answer appears to be full production in China, but with increased engineering input from Australia. That might not be ideal for purists who prefer homegrown toughness, but it is also not unusual. Even brands like Ford and Toyota assemble many of their global utes offshore. What matters most is the robustness of the final product, not its passport. There is also the question of modularity. Harris mentioned that more than one version of the ute is coming. That means Chery is not hedging its entire bet on a plug-in hybrid. They will likely offer a conventional turbo diesel as well, maybe even a petrol version for select markets. This approach mirrors what GWM has done with the Canon and Canon Alpha, giving buyers a choice depending on their usage and preferences. But what about the driving experience? Can this new Chery deliver the kind of feel and feedback that ute buyers expect? That question remains open, but the hints are promising. The renders commissioned by Chasing Cars show a wider track, aggressive tires, and a purposeful stance that suggests more than just visual flair. With proper suspension tuning, a low-range transfer case, and real off-road hardware, Chery could move from being a value option to a legitimate contender. All of this paints a picture of a company willing to invest in more than just marketing hype. They are asking the right questions, they are involving the right people, and they are building a ute that is designed to survive in a market where loyalty is earned the hard way. So where do things go from here? That depends on how Chery plans to launch it and whether they are ready to compete not just on hardware, but on branding, support, and long-term commitment. And that is exactly what we will explore next, because no matter how good your ute is, if buyers do not believe in the brand, none of it matters. Branding the beast. You can engineer the perfect drivetrain, you can match the payload numbers and nail the suspension setup. But if buyers do not believe in your badge, none of it matters. In Australia, utes are not just vehicles, they are identities. Tradies, farmers, overlanders, and even suburban families rely on them to get the job done. Trust is not given to the newest face. It is earned through time, consistency, and real-world proof. So what makes Chery think it can break into such a guarded segment? The answer may lie in their approach. Chery is not trying to copy Ford or Toyota. They are not pretending to have decades of ute heritage in Australia. Instead, they are leaning into what makes them different. Their positioning is not just about the ute itself, but about the story behind it. The diesel plug-in hybrid is a statement that Chery is willing to innovate instead of imitate. Still, history casts a long shadow. Some Australian buyers still remember the early wave of Chinese vehicles. They were cheap, basic, and often disappointing. Reliability was questionable, safety ratings were poor, service networks were thin, but that was over a decade ago. And today's Chery is not the Chery of 2012. Their recent launches show serious improvement in both design and execution. The Tiggo 7 Pro, for example, has earned praise for its value, technology, and comfort. That shift suggests a company evolving rapidly. But evolution alone will not shift perception. That requires strategy. Chery cannot just throw a spec sheet at the market and expect it to stick. They will need a campaign built on transparency. They must be willing to let Australian drivers push this ute to its limits. Real-world testing must be front and center. No closed-course footage. No voiceovers promising durability. Just footage of mud, dust, payload, and punishment. And then comes the dealer network. If the ute breaks down in a remote town, will there be support nearby? If something goes wrong, will parts be available? These are not questions answered with tech specs, they are answered with infrastructure. Chery needs to scale its service network fast, especially in rural and regional areas. A flashy launch means nothing if buyers do not feel protected on the other side of the transaction. This is where partnerships could come into play. Will Chery align with existing logistics providers to expand reach? Will they introduce roadside assistance packages with off-road coverage? These decisions may seem small, but in a market where trust is built one experience at a time, they are everything. There is also the challenge of price. Chery has been winning with affordability, but in the ute market, cheap does not always mean appealing. If you undercut the market too far, buyers may assume you cut corners. If you price it too close to the Hilux or Ranger, buyers will demand parity on every spec. It is a tightrope, and walking it requires precision. Marketing will also play a crucial role. Will they highlight the innovation of a diesel hybrid, or will they lean on rugged imagery to compete with off-road kings? Will the message be about technology or tradition? One misstep, and the ute could be seen as neither here nor there, not tech-savvy enough for early adopters, and not tough enough for hardcore ute loyalists. But if they get it right, the result could be something powerful. Chery has the chance to define a new category, not just a ute, a vehicle that merges long-distance capability with clean energy flexibility, a workhorse that feels like a premium SUV on the inside, but behaves like a tough-as-nails four-wheel drive on the job site. The pieces are on the board. The engineering is promising. The intent is clear. Now the focus shifts to the execution. Chery is not just building a ute, they are building a reputation. And the next piece of that reputation will be forged in competition. Because the battlefield is not empty. The segment is more crowded than ever. Who is already on the ground? Who has momentum? And how will Chery find a way to break through that noise and take a bite out of giants? Can Chery crack the crowd? The segment Chery is entering is not just competitive, it is brutal. The Ford Ranger is not just a sales leader, it is a cultural icon in Australia. The Toyota Hilux is not just durable, it is a symbol of trust, built over decades of loyalty. And now, disruptors like the BYD Shark 6 and GBM Canon Alpha are not waiting quietly. They are pushing innovation hard and forcing the traditional players to adapt faster than ever. In this environment, what makes Chery think it can stand out? Is there still room to breathe in a market already saturated with established titans and hungry newcomers? Surprisingly, the answer might be yes. But only if Chery stops thinking like a follower and starts acting like a specialist. There is no space for middle-of-the-road offerings. Buyers want either absolute toughness or cutting-edge technology. Playing it safe is the fastest way to get ignored. This is why the diesel plug-in hybrid matters. No one else has done it yet. It is not a marketing gimmick, it is a real mechanical advantage. A powertrain like this could make Chery the go-to brand for drivers who spend half their time in the city and the other half out bush. If Chery nails the execution, this ute becomes more than another entry, it becomes a category definer. But execution is not just mechanical, it is strategic. Chery will have to outmaneuver rivals who already have deep roots and large dealer networks. That means aggressive pricing, flexible ownership packages, and smart incentives. Could we see extended warranties, guaranteed buybacks, or bundled service plans? If Chery wants to lure buyers from Hiluxes and Rangers, it will take more than new technology. It will take confidence built into the contract. And then there is the wild card. Public opinion. The BYD Shark 6 has shown how quickly a newcomer can gain traction if it offers real innovation. The same could happen with Chery, but only if buyers feel empowered, not experimented on. No one wants to be a test case. They want to be early adopters of something bold but proven. Brand storytelling will play a major role here. Ford and Toyota have decades of heritage to lean on. Chery has to create a story from scratch. That story cannot be built on flash alone. It needs authenticity. It needs proof. And above all, it needs to show that the people behind the brand care as much about reliability and endurance as they do about clever tech. That story also needs to evolve over time. It does not end at launch. It builds with every review, every off-road test, every owner who tells a friend that this ute did what it promised. Chery will need those moments of validation to echo louder than any marketing campaign. Because the real test does not come from journalists or influencers. It comes when someone hooks up a trailer and tows through heat and dust. When someone takes it over rocky trails without backup. When someone puts it to work for years and then says it held up better than expected. The battlefield is not fair, but it is open. Chery may be the underdog, but the underdog often has something the big names have forgotten: hunger. If they keep listening to local experts, if they test under real conditions, and if they deliver something that feels tough, smart, and capable in one package, they might not just survive this market. They might lead the next wave. The ute game in Australia is not for the faint-hearted. It punishes weakness and rewards resilience. Chery knows this, and they are stepping forward not just with a new vehicle, but with a new philosophy: diesel, plug-in, hybrid tech, local engineering input, and a drive to prove themselves where it matters most, out there, on dirt, gravel, and asphalt. Whether they rise or fall depends not on promises, but performance. What do you think? Can Chery change the game, or will the market shut them out? Tell us in the comments, subscribe for updates, and stay tuned as this story unfolds.